Welcome back, faithful listeners, to the Media Files podcast. Ooh. And, well, last episode we did video games. That was the focus. This episode we are talking books. And we are more so talking books or book series from back in our day. I don't know why when I say that it just makes me like my bones creak, but we're not that old.
I have to
But
oil my knees.
bruh, lube.
No. I don't know what y'all talking about, dog. The only time I feel creaks in my knees is when I'm not walking at all.
Bruh. All right. So we got each of us had to pick a book or book series, and we're going to present in front of the class why we like this book, what it is, all the good stuff. So to get started, any of you guys want to start, or do you want me to go first?
You
You go first. I'm curious what you picked.
Cool. Okay. So my book of choice from back then is called Bone Chiller by Graham McNay. This is a supernatural horror novel. One that I like so much, I bought it 3 times. And I only bought it 3 times because it kept either borrowed it to, like I lent it to someone, never gave it back, or it got damaged when we were moving. But I have a copy of it now. But long story short, it is like a horror supernatural kind of book. And it follows this guy who lives in Alaska. And on his way home from hanging out with his friends who firebombed a gas station, he gets like attacked by this creature. And throughout the whole story, there's like this mystery that's unraveling. Like kids who have gone missing over the years, lucid and horrifying dreams. It is, I would say, probably one of the better written horror movie or books that I've ever read. I was surprised it didn't become a book, but without spoiling too much of it, the creature is like the Wendigo.
Bruh.
And
like this.
Yeah, like the telling of it is like, so there's a couple of characters. There's the main guy who's Danny. He's like the kid who's like, okay, he doesn't really have like too many strengths, but he's just more like, okay, this is the main character who you can relate to. You got Howie, who is a friend. He's like the younger brother of Pike. Pike is like the older brother. They're like, Danny lives near an army base or like near a military base, and the other friends are actually like their parents are in the military. And Howie's like the, logical type of guy. Pike is the anarchist, and the other girl's name, dang, she's like an Indian girl, but she's like a kickboxer type of deal. And the way the story progresses is done really well, showing that like they use Howie as a means of like, okay, what you're saying doesn't make sense, but like as he descends further into madness, it's like, okay, I'm starting to believe all this different stuff. And the first time I read it was Venom. You'll remember the library because we had readers rally.
Yeah.
Which we read a lot of stuff, and this was actually one of the books we had to read, and I had to read it for that. And ever since then, I was like, this is the book for me. Anything interesting? The only thing that I don't understand with the book is why it didn't have a wider audience. Because when you think about horror from like our day, it was more like loose horror, like not necessarily like creature horror, but more like, oh, kids or like in this dystopian future, or like it's kids against the man or something like that. Like the closest thing we would have or we would relate to horror, I guess, would be like Goosebumps. But I don't know why that genre wasn't really tapped into that much. But yeah, that's my book. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Just give me like a few seconds to randomly pick real quick. Hmm. There's one that's a better option, but I'm gonna go with Dracula just because that's the one I remember the most. Back in school, at least high school. I mean, it's fucking Dracula, man. That shit's amazing, and I think what I liked most about it was the mystery behind it because it was strange because you see like Dracula like in normal plains clothes in a sense, and plenty of scenes if I remember correctly. But then it turns out that I just really like how it's written, how the story flows of seeing who this man actually is, the what what terrors or dark mysterious things are around the corner in his castle. You know, I like uh the Jonathan Harper character. He's kind of
Yeah.
like just you. He's just an avatar for the audience, honestly.
Yeah.
Unless you're Keanu Reeves and mess up the accent.
Bro.
But I mean that's a fantastic movie. Listeners, if I know most of y'all more than likely read Dracula maybe in school or even watched the movie. The movie's fantastic, but Keanu Reeves is not the person that should have been in there. Even though I like him a lot, he kind of accent is just not right. Everything else I think is mainly okay from what I do remember.
Yeah.
I think that's what I liked it the most. And just I like vampires a lot, so just seeing a very well executed story of having Van Helsing come in and be like, "Yo, Van Helsing, man." I'm like, "Yo, Van Helsing?" Like I didn't expect to see that. So it was kind of cool to see so much of vampiric lore in that story after being enamored by the Lost Boys at like 5 to 6 years old.
Yeah.
So like in the Lost Boys, you remember when you guys, if you haven't seen the Lost Boys, I'm sorry, but it's been 40, it's almost been 40 years, dog. Just saying. But in the Lost Boys, and it's fantastic, go see it. In the Lost Boys, do you remember you saw it, right?
Yeah.
Remember
It's
when
been a minute.
Michael is with David in the cave with all the goons and
Yeah.
he gives them rice to eat because the goons came back with Chinese food.
Yeah.
And I gotta obligatory mention this dialogue. Hey man, guess first. No, no, you don't like rice? Tell me, Michael. How can a billion Chinese people be wrong?
Oh
Come
my
on.
god.
And then he just says, how are those maggots? And he's like, what? Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste? And he looks down and they're maggots. And it's like, yo, what? And he spits it out. And then it's like he looks back at it and it's nothing. And it's like, sorry about that. No hard feelings, huh? And then he's just like, why don't you try some noodles? They're worms. And then he's like, no, they aren't worms. And then he eats them and he's like, they're only noodles, Michael. And he looks back at it and they're noodles. I never understood why that was like that in that movie. I figured it was just because he was on edge and it's like he's just along for the ride and he's just seeing like I never knew until I read Dracula and I found sorry, I just came back.
Yeah, I was
My
about to
computer
say, what
froze.
the heck just happened?
My computer froze. I'm sorry. It's just because of the board thing. I have to really upgrade it at some point. Um
Mm-mm-mm.
yeah. So I didn't know it was a vampiric ability until I read Dracula. And it's like, oh, so it turns out that vampires can make illusions, and I had no idea that that was a real ability of theirs, or in the lore anyway, of vampires. Until I read that book, so it clicked, and I was like, "Oh wow, that is so cool!" So I really liked seeing like the book fill in the blanks for me when it came to certain things. I like the imagery of it, dark and gothic and just in the most remote area you could possibly think of
Yeah.
in Transylvania. And of course, Dracula is inspired by Vlad Tepes. Vlad Tepes, and I forget his full name, but I think in the lore, even his name is Vlad Tepes Dracula or whatever. He is based on a real person.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not saying he was a vampire, but I've heard stories that listeners don't think I'm crazy or anything, but literally look, research shit. I have found some horrific apparent accounts of beings such as this apparently back in Europe. It's some wild shit. Look into that. Maybe it could be just an urban legend, but it's some wild stuff to listen to. But anyway, yeah, I like that stuff about it. I like the dark gothic nature. I like the lore, the fill in the blanks stuff. I like seeing Van Helsing come through like, yo, man, I'm about to kill this motherfucker. Got to do it, man. Got to do it. And
Whatever it takes.
whatever it takes, Jonathan Harper being
No.
seduced by undead vampiric ladies and shit. I don't know why Dracula looks like Darth Sidious in the movie, but it is what it
Bruh.
is. I mean, he does, dog. He looks like him if Darth Sidious had a powdered wig or something with a bald spot. That's how he looks. It's like, okay, I mean, he does look
You mean
grotesque.
Gary Oldman?
Yeah, Gary Oldman, man. Dude, Jim Carrey made fun of that role in Living Color with Jamie Foxx. It was so funny, dude. It was so funny when he did that. But yeah, that's my book, Dracula. If you haven't
Cool.
read it, go read it. Good shit. And if you like anime and manga, Hellsing Ultimate, man. I'm just saying, man. Dracula did so many good things. Symphony of the Night,
Hellsing
so
Ultimate?
much. Yeah,
And
Hellsing Ultimate.
Castlevania.
Castlevania, baby. I'm just saying. And JoJo was inspired by Castlevania. I see it now. And it's like, oh wow, that's crazy. So it's really cool. I'm just saying. Now, I guess Jihad, take it away.
You know what's
Mammoth.
funny about my the book I chose?
What's that?
It also features vampires.
Oh
why
my
did I
gosh.
know? I don't even
Yo!
I don't even have to guess what it is. I know what it is.
What is it?
The
Twilight.
book.
Why?
Hear me out. I might have said this on the podcast before, but back in I think when Twilight first came out, I was sitting in class and I saw somebody reading it. And at the time it was like, ew, gross, sparkly vampires, it's dumb. And I was saying that, and she's like, well, have you read it? And I was like, no, I don't want to read it. I don't need to read it. She's like, well, you should try it before you judge it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Later on, I'm not sure for what reason I read Twilight and I go, huh, that wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, it was pretty okay. Now, at the time, I think I was just getting into fan fiction. I had already read Harry Potter
Oh
and
no.
The Hunger Games, and I was like, oh, I need some more teenage fantasy.
No.
No.
So I kept reading. I just kept reading each book came out, and I think I got New Moon from the library the day it was available, and I finished it that night. And I was just like, oh man, it's not the most like original story, Girl moves to new town or old town that she used to live in, meets a guy. The guy's kind of weird, kind of strange. Turns out that he's a vampire. And then a whole slew of supernatural. Well, in Twilight, they're not really supernatural. I guess they're more natural.
Well, until you
They're
get
like
to like their
naturally occurring.
powers.
Yeah, they do have powers. I think
Which
I think they're just naturally occurring creatures. They're not like created from like any sort of like magic. But yeah, she meets a she meets a vampire,
Edward.
Bella. Bella meets Edward. I don't know why I'm not saying their names. Everybody knows
I was about to say
who
you
they
don't have to
are.
censor anything. Like everyone knows the
Yeah,
plot.
yeah. Bella, what is she? She's a sophomore or a junior? She moves in middle of the school year. She's the new girl. It's like a small town she used to live in, and she sees the Cullen family
Ugh.
and Edward. and she's just like falls in love with Edward, or she doesn't fall in love with him, but she's like
Interested in him.
way too interested in this random guy who I guess everybody was interested in. They all thought he was like, oh, he's like the hottest guy in school, but he doesn't talk to anybody. But yeah, I mean, he was also interested in her, but for completely different reasons, which is kind of like a weird plot hole in the story of why you would ever expose yourself like that to humans.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need to go to school? You're 100 years old. But
I mean, maybe I think the way it was described was that they were bored and they
yeah,
liked humans so much because remember the dad works as a doctor
bro,
and
his
that
character is cool.
yeah, like they did ask him like how are you
Carlisle's
able
a
to
dude.
like yeah, how are you able to keep yourself sane when you're always dealing with human blood? That was kind of the whole like oh, we love humans so much that we live amongst them and help them and all that good stuff. But they have to move like because then it's like, well, you don't age, so what's going on here?
I will say that I kind of personally credit Twilight with like kicking off those like the popularity of female protagonist teen romance books where like there were a lot of random series. Like if you walked into a Barnes and Noble or a Books a Million in the 2000s, and you went over to the teen section, it was just like girl in love with demon, girl in love with werewolf, girl in love with vampire. It's like, okay, I see, people are getting exposed to new ideas. This is good, even though it's not really my cup of tea and I don't think they're the best stuff out there that people could be reading. But I think Twilight deserves a bit of credit for getting folks out there. And I give it credit to me for like kind of shaping my philosophy of giving stuff a chance.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I haven't read this thing. Let me go read it. I haven't watched it. Let me watch it. Oh yeah, Twilight gets uh, I don't want to call it my favorite, but I want to say it's like influential
Hmm.
because it shaped my mindset.
Okay. I was about to say, like, I read all of Twilight too, and I would not call it my favorite.
Yeah, there are other more popular and less popular series I like more, but I want to give Twilight some credit for having that like influence on me.
Okay. Well, you're gonna love this next part then.
Oh no.
So before we so we're now moving into our second part. This part is actually very interesting. So I called it Book of Despair discussion.
Yeah, dang, man.
So I put books that I felt that were either negatively looked upon, it, like
Am I clairvoyant? How did I how did I pick Twilight?
for me, okay, for me, I like to write. I like to, I have published a book. I am publishing the second book and finishing up the third one. I just had to take a break from it. So I'm very
No.
interested in writing, reading. I wrote fan fiction. I read a lot of fan fiction. I still do because I'm not gonna lie, some of the best stories I've read on there and some of the worst stories I've read on there as well. Um, but we're not gonna go there. That should be an episode. Good God. Anyway, so I put books on a wheel and I spun it, and I chose two book series that I was like, they're good to some people and maybe not so good to others. The first book, there's only two. The first book, Mammoth has already opened us up um,
Twilight.
with Twilight, and I think I'm just gonna say this. You brought up some good points because Twilight was the funny thing was when Twilight was popular, it gained it over time. Like Twilight wasn't popular as soon as it came out. Stephanie Meyer wrote that book, and I think it took like a year or so for it to actually pick up in the
Yeah,
mainstream.
it was out for a while.
And my thing was because I read all the books too. I don't know why I did, but maybe I feel like it was because I was like I'm under the philosophy that you can't judge something unless you have partaken in it. And
Yes.
amongst us, I am the only person who has read, watched, and consumed Fairy Tale to its completion to where it is currently at this moment in time. As in, if you ask me what series the author is currently working on, I know what they are. Like, I've watched it, I've read it, I can
Eden
judge it.
Zero? He's
Huh?
still writing that?
Well, he has a new one called Dead Rock
Well,
and
I'm good.
Fairy Tale, a 100 year quest is like in the final part, but still
Sequel?
writing stuff.
Is it a sequel or is it its own thing?
100 year, it's the sequel.
He made a sequel to Fairy Tale?
Yeah,
The
he
irony
made.
that Fairy Tail's the only series I've dropped ever, like purposely because I didn't like it.
I had to drop it.
And I'm
I
gonna be 100% candid that there are complaints. Don't get me wrong, but we could say that for any series. Um, and I feel like for someone who has seen it all the way through, I can clearly say, like, okay, is it really as bad as we're making it seem?
think so.
Uh,
I mean,
no,
dude, that
maybe.
Well, here,
Fairy Tale had these guys doing friendship power ups every boss battle. Dog, I'm sorry, but that's not good.
well,
I didn't
Every
even
well,
boss
make it
let's
battle.
that
be.
far.
I
I
was
read Volume 1 and fell asleep before episode 10.
I was
Like,
going to say that we could say that for any anime or manga where it's like they don't blatantly say friendship powers activate, but it's like I'll do this for my friends, or like that is a trope that is as old as Dragon Ball, where
But
I'm
Goku's
doing
not
this for
really
my
out
friend.
here. Goku's not losing. Goku is never losing badly, and somehow says, "Yo, and yo, this only happened with Super Saiyan, and there's different reasons, but Goku
that was
never.
special.
Yeah, that was different. Like, there's way more context. It's way
Listen,
different, baked into their biology. Natsu is
listen.
not winning at all. He's there's no way he can win the fight. Somebody gets hurt. Oh, my friends, motherfucker! Boom, I win. Like, get out of here, bro. He's
I
eating
mean,
magic. He's not allowed to eat. Come on, man. Like, he's a fire guy, and then like he's the only one that could
well,
eat
actually,
lightning
let me.
magic.
Well, hold on. You just stepped on a landmine and you just blew
Mhm.
up.
No.
You are saying something again. I watched it and I read it and I know everything. So the thing you just mentioned that's a complaint is explained later on in the series.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
he
everything is explained. See,
that he's getting
that's
these
it.
powers, these
That's
power
exactly
ups.
that's exactly what I mean when I say you can give your critique like, okay, this wasn't for me and I didn't want to finish it, and that's fine. But when it's like, okay, why is he able to do all these things? Well, you didn't finish the series, so you don't know the answer. But I did, so I know the answer. So I can tell you what the answer is. But
I read nearly 200 chapters,
we're
bro.
not talking. It's even further than that. But I'm not talking about that right now. That's just an example. Um, with like, I mean, we could say the same argument for Sword Art Online. Why is that still going on?
I mean, it's garbage, but yeah, I mean, I question that too.
I
I
will caveat and say that the spin-off for Sword Art is really good. Gun Gale Online, completely different characters and setting.
But the funny thing is, why is that the only good one? When like the first season was good. If it was like, I don't know
I
if that
haven't
was
watched
just
the first
it.
season. Didn't the first season end against that priest who looked like a crusader?
Huh?
Was that the guy for Sword Art? Was the final boss of the first season this
The
guy
the
who
creator.
looked like?
Yeah, he was in the game as the guy who you're describing. He was in
Okay,
the game as that guy. Kirito somehow was able to cheat death and beat him, and it ends with him like getting out of the coma and looking for Asuna. And then we go into the stupidest, one of the stupidest second seasons of any anime show. I'm getting depressed just thinking about it.
wait, but is it worse than Seven Deadly Sins season
Ooh,
3.
ooh.
Was it 3 or 2? It was 3, right? That was bad. I'm trying to remember how long the
I
seasons
think it
were.
was season 2, right? Because season 1 was good. It was animated well, story was
This
good.
one was, yeah.
But then it was like, yeah, no, it was season 2 because that's when it started to fall off. Like animation was bad, the story didn't make sense
That's right. Season 1 had 24 episodes.
because that's what they did with what is it, Neverland? Promise
Promise Never-
Neverland.
You told me not to watch season 2.
Yeah, season 2 is trash. Do not watch it.
I really
Read
like
it.
season 1.
Season 1 is like godly, and season 2 is like they dropped it in the bottom of the ocean and left it there. Like it's so
You know, I felt that way about the studio change for Attack on Titan. At first, I didn't like the switch to 3D.
yeah.
I was like, I just don't like the way it looks. It's not very pleasing to the eyes. But then I gave it a chance, and I was like, you know what? They actually did a really good job.
I was gonna say, do you guys remember American Dragon Jake Long?
Yes.
Remember the
Mhm.
switch from season
Yep.
1 to season 2?
I really dislike that.
I was so pissed, dude. I was like, he went from this muscular, like imposing drag. Everybody did, and then it was like season 2, he lost weight. I don't know what happened to my man. He was shooting up heroin or something. I don't know. But what were we talking about? Oh, books. So for so that was so
We are really
Yo, y'all went somewhere. I'm listening, but y'all know I'm doing this thing on the side. But that was funny.
I genuinely forgot. I had to look over at my notes. I was like, "What are we talking about again?"
Yo, Fairy Tale, bro, got us sidetracked.
Oh, there's a reason why Fairy Tale explains some of the more
Bullshit
questionable decisions.
at the end, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like so.
But there was too much of it with every other character, man. Like you got Ezra who got a magical armor that negates magic. I'm good.
Well, it makes sense within the world or the See, here's the thing.
Anti-magical, magical? Like, come on, dog. That's a little too much. That's already like God level.
I mean,
know
but
who
that
did it right?
doesn't. Huh?
Jujutsu Kaisen did it right, where it's like, oh, this blade, it negates magic. That's it.
Well,
Not
the
magic,
thing
it
is,
negates.
It negates a certain ability or some shit.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's the thing. That
It's like
armor
twitchy.
isn't like completely like okay, it can beat anything and everything because not everybody uses magic. That's literally one of the seasons or like one of the arcs, whereas like okay, we're fighting dudes who don't use magic. So, you know, anywho, the point is, I believe that those of us who have read Twilight can give a more what's the word? A more broad or more focused critique of it. And Mammoth, have you watched all the movies?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I've watched all the movies. I read all the books, and
Great soundtrack.
yes, here was my take from it. When I first read it, I said it reminded me of a wet dream.
Which book again?
Twilight.
Twilight?
It reminded me of someone's like just this weird dream of where like you got two overly muscular men who are like fighting over you, and you get the best of both worlds.
It's like the wrong version
Somebody
of JoJo.
said that Twilight makes sense to men if you imagine it's like a tomboy werewolf and then like a goth vampire, and they're like obsessed with you, but you're in
Yeah.
10th grade.
Oh, it makes sense if the gender roles are reversed, is essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I was like, you know what, you kind of got a point. I would probably make really bad decisions like Bella if I had like a jock tomboy werewolf lusting after me, but then also like some vampire chick who might kill me.
But the thing is, in your eyes, they're both so fine. So, and it's like, oh my god, this bitch is a werewolf, this bitch is a vampire, but they're so fine. Look at her titties, dog. You'd be off. Yeah, I could understand. I guess
it's just like so weird. I was like, why? Like
it
again,
is weird.
Like again, create what you want to create. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, you can't do that.
Like the
But my
world
thing was
did well.
like, dude, like, where are we going with this? And the breaking point for me was, you probably know what I'm gonna say, but the breaking point for me, where I was like, I gave it a chance. I read it to a certain point. I read the whole thing. I watched everything, but it started getting to a point where I was like, I don't understand what these characters are doing. I don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing. And there was one part in the last book and in the last movie where they have this epic war with, the
Oh
alpha
no,
vampires or whatever.
the police.
And yeah, and then it's like, oh, it was all just a vision.
Yeah, spoilers for like a
I mean, I watched
book that came
4
out in
movies.
2007.
I wasn't gonna watch the final one at all. I just did
You
not give a shit anymore.
you saved yourself some time because basically it's like this epic final climax where they're like ripping people's heads off and like doing all these things. You're like, man, this is Twilight. This looks so cool. And then it's like, ugh, it was like That's So Raven. Like, ugh, it was a vision. And
Imagine if like in the game happens and at the very end, Iron Man wakes up and goes, "Oh, that was a nice dream," and it's back in Iron Man 1 or something. You're
I
like, "Wait,
was
you're telling me that all the crazy stuff that made people feel didn't actually happen? Like there were no consequences?"
I was so pissed. I was like, dude,
Dude, it's like so creepy. It's so weird. Like it's so into the head of Stephanie Meyer. Something's wrong with this
You know,
bitch.
I wouldn't have minded the vision if there was still some like consequence. But you
I
get to
mean,
the end and it's like anybody you cared about is like, oh, they're not actually in danger.
yeah,
Some
like
people just
it.
got a little injured, but they'll heal in like a couple of days or a couple of weeks.
I mean, in the end, also like the worst part about that whole ending was like, yeah, I'm like already taking claim of your fetus, bro.
That
That
Like
was
what
that
the
creepy.
I'm in
gay,
Twilight
whack,
groups, like
disgusting
meme groups
garbage.
today, and people still talk about that. I
Why wouldn't they? It's egregious.
That is so freaking creepy,
Dude,
dude.
not even Dio Brando thought to do that, bro.
I
That's
tried to
just
give it like
nasty.
a benefit of the doubt because they have that whole thing beforehand where he's like, "It's not your choice." Like I think in New Moon they talk about this, or in Eclipse they talk about this, and it's like, "It's not your choice. It really sucks." He hates the concept of it happening, and then it happens to him 2 books later, and it's like, "Ooh, that really sucks to be this guy." And I was Team Jacob. So
I
I
I
feel
was
really
Team
betrayed.
Jacob.
Bruh.
I was Team Jacob too when that other motherfucker left. I was like, all right, let's
Right?
go. Let's fucking go. This shit is gonna be. Let's go. We can salvage the fucking story. Let's go. And then, because it was that first one was all, dude. Anna Kendrick. Oh my god, in that first movie, cringe at everything. It's not because I don't like her, but fuck the story. Damn. It was like, oh, it's so awkward. Like I was watching it and I felt so uncomfortable in certain scenes.
Dude,
I was
because
just like,
they
ah.
dude,
Teen
here,
romance is always weird to watch.
yeah. But here's the thing. You guys, I still remember the whole Team Jacob, Team Edward thing. And I was like, I'm just Team
Oh,
Common Sense
people
for over
were
here.
very
I'm team not sparkling glittery vampires, bitch. That's what like I hated that. Hate it now. I mean,
I
you know what?
was,
Hated is a strong word, but I heavily dislike it. It's like, come
I
on, man.
detested that. I was like, you got these creatures who are basically immortal, and their only weakness
It's
is
sunlight and they make
literally
them
to
glitter.
glitter in like,
hot
Like,
take.
no.
You know what did Twilight better? Rosario Vampire.
oh my god.
Yeah,
Low key,
I've
it
heard
did
Yeah,
about
better.
it.
I've
I've
seen
heard
it.
some good things about the manga. I've heard some good things about the manga. That it's
I've
dope.
I have partaken in, and yes, it is.
Vampire Hunter is like the Japanese equivalent to Twilight, I swear. But I'd rather watch that, even the anime, which butchers the series. I'd rather watch that.
Bruh. So, okay.
It's a shojo, mind you, but I didn't read the shit. I just
So,
watched it because Tifa liked it at the time, and I wanted some pussy, so I was like, "Yo, man."
Ew.
I'm like, "Yo, man,
Oh my god.
I'm a fucking watch, You can mute that. No, don't mute it. It's fine. But
Leave
you
it
know, I
in.
was a fucking teenager, bro. I was like, yo, man, what this bitch like? A vampire hunter? Shit, I like vampires. Romance? Shit, I'll watch that. I'll watch it. And I watched it, and I was like, well, you know, like, well, I mean, I don't even remember when I started watching it, but I mean, y'all know, I mean, nothing ever happened. But I still watched the thing, and I generally enjoyed it. But it's like, ugh, fuck. I liked it at the beginning, even though if it was a shojo, it doesn't matter to me.
Yo, Mammoth,
Yes.
there was not a new My Hero chapter this week. I'm so pissed.
I'm so far behind.
He's
I mean,
catching.
it's
He's
pre-
trying to.
I gotta catch up.
I
'Cause
mean,
I'm pretty much where the anime is right now.
it's
Like I'm super far behind.
it's pretty much almost like the final battle's over. So it's just kind of like the aftermath. And so I would probably suspect like maybe a few more chapters after this, unless he, decides to like do another like spin-off or like another series like Vigilantes.
Vigilantes is complete. I could probably
Oh
pick up
yeah,
some
you
more.
can go through that. That is such a good one. Like, oh my god, that's such a good one. So that was the first one. Twilight was the first pick. The second pick, ooh boy, The Hunger Games.
Oh, I like me some Hunger Games.
I have some thoughts about The Hunger Games. Not necessarily that it's bad, but there are some things that
That make you pause.
here's the thing. When it comes to Hunger Games, I remember reading it the first time and I was like, okay, it's pretty nice. Pretty cool story, pretty cool idea, whatever. But I think it was the second book that kind of lost me. And I was like, why do I like this again? And it kicked off the whole dystopian young adult
Yep. Like
kind
Maze
of,
Runner.
yeah. Which Maze Runner.
I need to finish those.
Here's the thing. These books start off great and strong, but then they lose momentum because they don't know where they're trying to go. Like, okay, there is a book series called Gone. Viewers, if you find this book, read it. I have it in my on my bookshelf. I need to remember who wrote it. But basically it's like these kids, they're in a town, all the adults disappear and they're underneath this bubble and they can't get out, but all the kids get superpowers. And basically it's like they have to survive. Like there are mutations in animals and whatnot. Like there's one book where worms are like trying to eat the kids, like literally crawl underneath their skin and eat them from the inside out type of
Holy
deal.
shit. No, just dark. Are you sure this is for teens?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a death game where you have to pit teens against each other.
This is a level of gore and like horror I would not expect.
I didn't expect it either. I think it was the second book in the series because each book is like a different problem. So the title of the book, so the first one is called Gone. So all the adults are gone. So now the kids have to figure out what to do. The second book is, I think, Starvation or something, or Starved. And basically they have to solve a food problem. But there's like two storylines. There's the main one, like, like they're trying to solve their problem. Then there's like kind of the background one where like characters are like trying to like figure out how to get out or, how to use their powers better, things like that. And as the book went on, it finished off pretty good. Like I think there was like 5 books in the series. Could have finished off better, but the problem was the author got greedy and tried to extend the series past that. And that's where it just fell off for me. I was like, this is trash. And I felt the same way with Hunger Games. I felt like if it was just the first book and it was just that, I think it would have been perfect. But I feel like they were trying too hard to like extend it into something that it may not have necessarily needed to be.
Okay.
I mean, that's just me though.
All right, so the book of dread was Twilight. At the end of the day,
I mean, if I had to choose, like, what is the worst book for me? It's not Twilight. It is
sure,
not
there's
Hunger
worse.
Games. There was one book I read. I don't remember the name of it. I just remember that when I read it, I physically wanted to like punch my computer screen,
Dude.
and I was reading it as a like. So
it was that bad? Was it long? Did you waste your time so much?
so I'm gonna give you the synopsis, right? So it starts off with this girl. A girl gets murdered, and it's like, okay, it's a mystery novel. Then
Yeah.
you're in the shoes of the main character, and she works at this cafe, and there's
Mhm.
like 5 other girls, and there's one guy that everybody wants to go out with.
Mm-hmm.
So one girl goes out with the guy. That girl ends up dead. The very next day, they're like, okay, who gets him next? And I'm like,
What?
yeah,
Wait a minute.
someone just died
No.
being in a
not like this.
relationship with this man, and you're like, who's got him next? And
That's realistic Twilight.
Oh
I was
no.
I was like, I was like, okay, maybe they'll tie it up together at the end. And I was like, and I said it to myself. I was like, if the murderer is the main character, I'm literally throwing this book out the window. The murderer was the main character. The person you were following was the psychopath.
I
And
mean,
then
was it? How was it? How was it written?
it was
Like
written poorly.
the entire time?
I mean,
Yes,
I like the premise, but it sounds like it was
it was.
really badly executed.
Yeah, it was so illogical. I'm like, this person dies. They have the funeral that afternoon. Then the next day, they're like, okay, I'm shooting my shot now. Like, I was like, this. It kind of reminded me of someone. Remember how I said, like, for me, it's easier to draw men than female,
Yeah.
like because I'm more used to the male anatomy. It
I'm a
felt
dude
like
who
someone,
sketches, dude.
yeah, like it felt like someone who was writing women who didn't know about anything about women.
I've heard that said a lot about like female characters, where it's like this guy doesn't know anything about writing women.
Well, and that's
Naruto.
yeah, and that like that's the thing you could say about Twilight is like, is this really how guys would act in this kind of situation? Like,
No, yeah, because if you think about it, Twilight is like those romance novels where like the guy's on the horse with his shirt open. It's like,
Oh
"Come
my
to
god,
me,
please.
I love you forever." I'm like, "Oh,
That's
this
the
motherfucker."
feeling of it, and it's like
There's
stop,
exaggerations. of
stop,
real
and then that
people.
should be then chicks be believing in that shit too. It's like, man, y'all better chill the fuck out. That's not how this shit goes.
like you got to ride in on a horse to propose to me, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, and it's like, are you even worth that, bitch? Like, I mean, hey, for the lady listeners, I'm just saying.
It's kind of like shonen characters being way more badass in the story than they would be in real life.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Avengers
Even
Endgame.
shonen, in shonen, it's like they know it's a joke. Twilight feels like it's serious. Like
no,
this is how people actually are. Like,
that
oh,
Yeah.
it is taken way too seriously.
Or like when Avengers Endgame when they had to make that fucking scene and it's like, guys, we can make this much better without calling attention to ourselves.
oh, she's got help.
Yeah, she's got help and then like it's only the chick like get the fuck
She's
out of
got
here.
help was so bad. The boys did it better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it to be fair though, like That's such a microcosm in an otherwise masterpiece. So I
That's
don't really give
that's
a shit
what
at
I
the
was
end of the
literally
day.
Yeah.
about to say in
It's a
comparison to
stumble.
everything else that they've
It's so
made.
good.
Nice.
Like that shit was so bad, but it's dwarfed by the goodness. So
I mean, compare that to She-Hulk, the show.
I
You know what? I
didn't
would
watch
say
it.
Don't
Infinity
watch
War
it.
did She's Got Help better during the Wakanda battle.
Yes,
Oh,
like dude, like y'all didn't have to say that. I wish there wasn't a cut where they just cut it out and it was official. Like you
bruh,
just see everybody fighting and there's no setup, they're just there. Like I wouldn't even give a shit if they did that.
bruh.
But anyway,
But
the
I mean,
book, that book was
but
bad, I guess.
I mean, it's not necessarily that it's bad. It's like, listeners, here's something you need to understand. When you get something and you do something really well and people are admiring you for it. Or here's a good example. Mammoth,
Yes.
outside of Twilight, did you read anything else that Stephanie Myers wrote?
50
Meyer.
Shades of Grey,
No.
lol.
No, she wrote The Host. I didn't read that though.
She did write that, didn't she?
Yeah, and it was not well
Didn't they make a movie?
received, if I remember correctly. Because again, what people are measuring you to is what you are successful for. And typically when it comes to authors, it's typically like that one series and you're done. Like unless you're like this legend and every book you write is well received and loved, you only get that one time. Like that is what authors are looking for. They're looking for that one moment to thrust them into the forefront because like I mean, all you need is one good series. Get that series as a movie and you're set for life basically.
Yo,
You know,
hold that thought.
there's a
Hold that thought. Stephanie Myers, I've never seen her before. I'm looking her up right
no.
now. She is
She's in the
very
movie.
she's very beautiful, dog. She looks like
Bruh,
she looks like a better version of old chick from The Craft, the main chick,
she
the
should have
goth
played
chick.
Bella Swan.
She looks like her.
Ruza Bulk, is that her?
Yeah,
No.
she looks like her. It's
That's not her.
crazy. Well, in some photos she looks like her, and I'm like, what? I never would have imagined this is how she looks like. That's crazy.
I mean, again, it's like when
She's
it
in
comes to
the first
books,
movie, I think, in a cameo.
she did?
Cool.
No, she's in the first she's in the first movie
Hmm.
and in Breaking Down Part 1.
Oh.
She's like a guest at their wedding. And then she
Oh.
randomly shows up at
That is
the
so
diner.
weird when like
This is self-insert.
yeah. Cuz here's a funny bit. I am currently working on. I mentioned this to you guys. I'm working on a like horror book now,
Fuck yeah.
and I've been trying to think of like a original creature, and like
Oh,
you know planning the steps of like what makes a horror movie work, and I use Tremors as like the basis for it
Nice.
mhm.
because the way they execute it is so well, just like with the story, like earlier we were talking about like you know how to make a story work well. The way they do it in Tremors is done really well.
It
Like
is.
if you follow the progression of like the creature, like okay, like the
There's a lot of
first
build-up.
yeah, like you know you never see it. Like you never see the full thing. But every time you make a discovery, it's escalated. Like okay,
Yeah,
like something is instantly KOing people. It is something like okay with the sheep, it killed all those sheep and the farmer guy, but there's no indication of how. The second one was the guy who was up in the tower, so that
Hey,
was kind of like
by
what's
the way,
up.
guys, um, we might need to somehow cut this or splice this in a way. Only because I was about to say I'm gonna still be on. I'm just gonna be through the phone, but then come back on if we're still recording.
All
oh,
right,
I was
bet.
doing that. That's why I was silent for a minute.
Oh
Yeah, so
yeah,
I'm
It
you're
should
I'm
fine.
be
so
seamless if you have both apps open.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
I'm about to get in here through the app on the phone. Hold on.
All
Because
right, bet.
your PC will mute if you, as you hit join.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Um, yeah. So that part just signifies like okay, the first death is like it's mysterious and quick. The second one is like they're very persistent, but strong enough and scary enough to where it's like they can withstand a rifle. And then they continue to progress by showing just like one of those like tongue things.
You get faked out because they think that that's what it is. Like, oh,
Yeah,
that's what it is. We got it. It's like, no, that's
and
not what it is.
and then remember, even when they get the reveal that it's what it is, there's more of them. Like it's not just oh, there was just one of them and we did it. It was like no, there's three of
Yo,
these things. Yeah, what's up?
again, I'm now on a phone call. I'm still on, but I'm on a phone call.
I bet.
All right, in a second.
But yeah, that's kind of like the thought process I'm thinking. Like even with aliens, it's like there's
Yeah.
this progression of like, okay, we can use some type of logic, but then once it's like, oh, we can't use logic anymore. This is literally what this thing is. Like they do it so well.
It
But
reminds me of the build up to Mr. X in To Make, where like
oh,
you see him break. If you're playing as Leon, you see him break through the wall. You might
ooh,
hear him, and then you finally see him lift the chopper, and it's like, oh shit!
yeah, like dude, that was, and that's when I'm like, the suspension of belief is what
Like
makes a story good.
the less the audience can see, the more they'll be scared.
Yeah, because it's like you're trying to figure out the mystery, just like the main characters are. Because I was watching, I think it was like a Bigfoot movie. It's actually pretty good. I was surprised. But basically, it's like these guys, they go to this cabin, and the cabin's like all jacked up and stuff. But throughout the movie, people keep disappearing, different things keep happening, but the buildup is done so well that it's like, okay, maybe it's just like an animal, maybe it's just some type of wild cat. But as it progresses, it's like, yeah, no, we're screwed. Unlike movies like The Two Headed Shark, which I've
Oh
watched
yeah,
a few
it
times.
opens and you already see what it is.
Yeah, like there's no suspension of disbelief. Like you know what it is. Like even with like Jurassic Park type movies, unless they have like an original dinosaur, you know what everything is and what it can do. Like you've seen the other dinosaur movies, so it's kind of like okay, well, what can they
I
do?
will say that was a great addition to was it Jurassic Park 4 with the Indominus Rex? They made a new dinosaur, and then after it was revealed, they're like, "Hey, it has these abilities," and then we
Yeah,
get to watch the abilities in action. And I
I
think that was like the scariest part of the movie was when the Indominus escapes
yeah
Oh,
and it's like rampaging. That was dude when it goes underneath the truck and it's sniffing around for Chris Pratt. That was some scary shit.
yeah. No, they like it's like some people know what they're doing and other people just like because even with what was it the Jurassic World or whatever, that movie
Yeah,
was
that's
just
what it was.
that one was all over the place.
I did not see any of the ones after that one.
Yeah, Jurassic World because that was the one where they brought back the guy from the first movie. They
Yep,
were bringing back,
Samuel.
yeah, they were bringing back like legacy characters, and they just felt so out of place. It's kind of like it's kind of like remember how I said that a lot of commercials nowadays have a lot of old like artists and whatnot who haven't like been in the spotlight a lot. I just saw a State Farm commercial with Ludacris in it,
Yeah, I've seen that one.
and I
I'm
was
back.
like, okay, cool. I was like, Ludacris, what?
'Cause
Like,
I don't know what he's doing right now besides Fast and the Furious. I don't want to sound mean to Ludacris, but he stopped. I don't. Has he made any new music?
no, I don't think so.
And
He's
I've only
basically
seen him
been in
in
the background.
Fast and the Furious, which I mean, a franchise that big, you can kind of afford to relax a little bit and be like, "Hey, I'm getting older. I just want to spend time with the fam and chill."
Yeah, which is fine. It's just kind of like the idea of these people have done what they did, and they, are kind of like, well, they're it should be up to the upcoming generation to finish this. I shouldn't have to like jump back in. But
Two franchises I think did not do that well or were
hmm,
not received well by audiences were Transformers after it
hmm,
swapped over to Mark Wahlberg, and
okay.
then the new Ghostbusters. I
Ooh,
don't
yeah.
think that either one was able to capitalize on the love of the previous characters. I
Yeah,
think people
no.
just showed up because it was Ghostbusters or because it was Transformers, but the the references to the original material were not very well liked. It's like I'm trying to figure out how does that become a hit or miss where like you can cameo like Cobra Kai did that where they brought everyone back and it works really well. And it's like how does that work? But then you get stuff like Ghostbusters and folks are like this feels like a cash grab. I hate it. I don't want this. It's
I
like
th-
how does that work?
I think it's more so with respect to the original material, because think of it like, okay, like the Ghostbusters when they came and they did the all female cast, whatever. What they did was they did it, but did it respect the original like idea? It's kind of like with what's happening with all Disney properties right now. They're
It was
making all
so
this,
different.
yeah, like they're making all this stuff, but they're also kind of degrading what was already done. Like, you guys remember that Snow White, that the remake that was supposed to be done, the live action one?
I remember hearing about this.
So it got
There
canned.
was a lot of controversy over that.
Well, one, because the main person, Zegler, just kept bad mouthing the original movie, which is actually the highest grossing animated film, if I remember, to date.
Really? Holy
For
shit.
Disney, yes. Snow White is one of its most popular movies. I think even more so than Lion King. Um, and it's like the dwarves are like it was a mess. Long story short, when they canceled it because she kept like talking and disrespecting it, and like it's like, why are you talking so bad about something that you're starring in? Like, there would be no Snow White
Yeah.
without that original film. Like, the same thing could be said for like, all these Lion King remakes, or like the Little Mermaid. Like, why are you making these, decisions and these changes when they don't add anything to the story? Like, why does Ariel like need to be her own savior? Like, you're misinterpreting the original message. Like, you're making it like, oh, she needs to be able to save herself and do all this stuff. It wasn't about that. It was about both of them having their own strengths and weaknesses and being able to complement each other to solve a problem.
You know a style of like remake or retelling I think worked was the do you remember the Snow White and the Huntsman? I think that was also Kirsten Stewart.
Yes.
And it was like it changed the story drastically to like they flipped it on its face, but it was like it was equal parts different as it was like, hey, it's still the same people. They're just going to do slightly different things or they're going to change roles.
Yeah.
So you're not really erasing anything. You're just giving people different things to do.
And that's a different enough flavor to where it's like, okay, this is a movie on its own. Because a lot of times it's like they're butchering the original just to say like, okay, this is our version is better. I think that's ultimately what it like comes down to, is like, we're just gonna say
It
our
is,
version is better, even
it's like
though,
it's just wearing the original skin. Like, hey, here's the aesthetics, but none of the substance you enjoyed.
yeah,
Because we're going to use the same font and the same colors, but we're not going to use any of the same styling or placement. And it's like, okay, like who is this for?
yeah. It's like you want the fans of the original but you're not doing anything to cater to them or make them want to like do anything. Like, I mean, there's so many shows on Disney right now that I'm like, I don't know what you guys are even doing anymore. Like, you're just dividing the audience. You're letting Star Wars go down the drain. You're definitely letting Marvel go down the drain. Um, like,
Oh yeah, I think Disney recently said that like their focus on Plus has like not been like a financially smart move, and that viewers are not like staying with the service. They're not enjoying it.
well, I already knew that because they made a change to it. You guys, did you guys know about this? Where
No.
you can now watch Hulu and Paramount Plus through Disney Plus. So
Oh, that's
basically, it is just a
convenient.
platform. It's convenient, but that's also a spout of trouble because what that means is you are no longer here for our content. You're just here because we have these other things here. And I'm going to be honest, I mean, that work, like, that makes sense. But again, it's like streaming was supposed to replace cable, but now it's like streaming is becoming what it set out to destroy. Because everything's trying to
Yeah.
be on this one thing. Prices are still going up.
It's
So,
like people like streaming not because you can get stuff when you want it, because you have choice.
yeah.
You know, for decades, people had no problem tuning in the shows or recording or buying box sets because it we had choice. You know, and now there's no choice. Either it's on streaming or
Or
it's
it's
out of
not.
print.
Yeah, like, that's why I'm like, oh, here's a good example. So we have Prime and we have HBO Max. HBO Max is through our internet because when we signed up with them, that was when, well, it's
Yep,
now Max, but you know they had the whole deal and we still have it.
I got the same thing. AT&T.
Yeah,
The one good thing they've done.
the only good thing. And on Prime you can buy the Boomerang subscription. I think it's like $2.99 a month. You get access to like all their like catalogs, like um the Jetsons, Flintstones. I got it specifically for Scooby Doo.
Nice.
But here's the problem. Um What's New Scooby Doo is on there, but only seasons 1 and 2. The other ones you have to buy. But the
That
other
sucks.
seasons are on HBO Max. So instead of being able to watch the whole series on one platform, I now have to switch between two of them just to watch the whole thing. What type of foolishness is that?
You know, the Spider-Man movies were like that for a minute, where
Yeah,
like all the Tom Holland ones were on Disney Plus, but then R- Andrew and Toby were on Netflix, and I think for some reason they went to Max for
it
a
was
little.
weird. It's just so weird because even like with anime, like I don't understand why I can't find why I have to like
And
torrent
now it's worse
Zatchdale.
because didn't Funimation acquire Crunchyroll? So now most mainstream or slash legal in America streaming for anime is all under one banner.
Well, Hulu still has access to a lot of anime. Like you can because
I mean,
I
for like new stuff.
even new stuff like newer seasons of My Hero is on there.
Really?
Hulu has
I must be
Yazakuro
missed.
Family, which is a Hulu exclusive. I don't know why. Um, which is another problem. Like if the streaming service, just literally just disappears, there goes that series. Like with Komi-san Can't Communicate is on Netflix and is only on Netflix. So, and you can't buy the DVDs or nothing. There's no physical way of acquiring it. But if Netflix goes bust, then there goes that.
Hmm.
It's just sad, man. Just sad.
Is there even a fix for something like this? Because physical media is dying. I think it's Best Buy will no longer is already no longer selling discs for
Yeah,
movies and stuff.
which they're messed up for that, but yeah.
That was my one place to go was Best Buy and Target during Black Friday.
Best Buy has just been like on one lately. I don't know why. But I mean, I can't even ask me the last time I went to Best Buy. I always go to either Micro Center or
Yep, Micro Center.
like Micro Center is like my place to go for every and all my electronic needs.
Unironically, Amazon. There's so much on there now. It's like
That's true.
it's available and in stock,
And you can
and
get it
usually cheaper.
relatively quickly depending on where it is. But yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm like that's the reason why I said with Disney Plus, I already saw the cracks forming because I was like the fact that you have to have other streaming services on your platform just to make people want you is bad. Because Disney Plus should just be good on its own. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it
But
should just be its own service. Having to bundle services to make them appealing is not appealing.
yeah, because then it's like if you asked me the last time I watched Hulu, I couldn't tell you. Last time I watched Netflix, couldn't tell you. I'm still waiting on that final season of Stranger Things. And Disney Plus, I just kind of, like,
Dude, I haven't been on Netflix since I finished the last season of The Umbrella Academy.
yeah,
And that
it's
was like a year ago.
so it's like, this the stuff they're coming out with isn't necessarily like appealing. It's not done well. It's done quick. Like Disney keeps saying, "Oh, we're going to focus more on quality over quantity." But
I
then it's
will
like,
say X-Men 97, pretty solid. But compared to everything else they've been dropping, it's like one success, a
can't
handful
outweigh.
of failures.
Well, and that's the thing. The Guardians of the Galaxy movie was like the only good movie they had released during that whole year. Like
Yeah, didn't
that,
they just change their slate of upcoming movies to be like, hey, we're not going to do certain things, and we
yeah,
need to rethink what we're making.
they had to axe Agatha. I think
Yeah, I actually was looking forward to that because I liked her character.
Agatha Ironheart also got the axe, which I'm happy about because I did not like that character at all. I didn't like that movie either.
You
Like
know, I still haven't seen it.
you haven't seen it?
I haven't.
It's not worth it, dude.
No.
Like it was just like such a betrayal to the original, like the original Black Panther movie. I'm like the first part of the movie was good, but then it just goes downhill. It's anyway.
It couldn't have been worse than Thor Ragnarok. Not Ragnarok, but Love and Thunder.
Um,
At least
Worse
if
than
you've read
CGI
God
muscles.
Butcher
When you see what's the smart girl's name?
from Thor, Darcy?
No, the one from Black Panther.
Shuri.
Yeah, she becomes the new Panther.
I think that happened once.
But my thing is, and other people brought this up too, there's definitely better options because when she wears the suit, it looks so wrong. Like you literally have women who are larger and like built different, and you're giving it to the person who's like stuck, who's she's more of the technology person, not more of the fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you literally had the Black Panther where it was like this man's literally fist fighting, they're bleeding, they're doing all this stuff, and it's like,
Did she do the combat thing from the first movie where she has to like earn the spot?
no,
Well,
there's none of that in that
that's
movie.
disappointing. What the hell?
It's literally just handed to him.
They made such a big deal about having to earn the right to not only be the Black Panther but also be king
You
or queen.
you see the problem
And
where
she doesn't
they're.
earn it in the second movie.
I mean, dude,
That
the
was like half of
Marvels.
the first movie was him earning it, and then like Killmonger coming to try and take it.
That's that's the thing with the Marvels. The one big complaint they had is like how they just butchered freaking Fury. Like
I
that.
heard that he was made a bit incompetent. I haven't seen the Marvels either,
Don't watch it. Save
but
your
I
money.
was told that he was made all the Avengers movies. He's like super capable, on the
Yes,
ball, gets it done. And
resourceful.
then in the Marvels, I heard he was just kind of like
He
a
was
little dumber than he should have been.
he literally,
Not as serious.
you know, like how he wears the eye patch.
Yeah.
Guess how he got it?
Hmm. There's a cat. I don't know what's with the cat, but I know there's a cat.
The whole movie is just him and everyone at Shield just trying to catch cats.
No.
I'm not joking.
What the hell?
It is bad, dude. It is bad. But anywho, that movie bombed as it should have. I didn't waste any money on it, so I'm good. But I think we've diverted far enough from books. We're actually still pretty good on time. This could just be one episode if I wanted it to be. But now comes the last part, the toss up. So we discussed doing a gameplay for the next episode. So I'm gonna give you two choices. We can either do a gameplay of a multiplayer game that we can do together, or we talk about CDs.
Ooh. I kind of I kind of want to do CDs because I dug some CDs out of storage, and there's some in the car that I've been wanting to like go through and listen to. So CDs could be cool. This has been forever since I've actually played a disc.
I know, right? I still remember like my first one, like the first CD I ever bought. But again, we will do both. It's just which one do we do next recording and which one we're gonna do the following. Because
Let's
after
do
that, I'm thinking we could
let's do
do
CDs second, so I can have some time to listen to some.
okay, Venom.
I'm not. I'm sorry, guys. It's something stupid happened, and I'm just not feeling up to talking right now. It's
Oh,
dumb.
Okay.
that's okay.
We will go with gameplay then. So we
What
will
kind of
need
game?
to, yeah, we'll need to choose a game. Um,
Multiplayer?
yeah, you know what? After this, I'm gonna look up on Steam. But viewers, I think that is a good stopping point. We'll just go ahead and end it here. But thank you guys for
Twilight
listening.
bashing.
Yeah, we did bring some insight, and we have read the whole series, so we can say what we want to say. But thank you guys for tuning in. If you're listening to this on your any podcast platform, make sure to follow, like, whatever, share. It's on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.